Spider sense is tingling.
Hello, YouTube. It is your friendly neighborhood player slayer, Death Bandit DM here once again. It's good to see you all here. Well, now some issues that I would like to discuss with everyone. Okay, enough with the voice for the time being. But yeah, so I've gotten a wonderful response from Tim Carney of Absolute Tabletop and Tabletop Terrors to a video I posted kind of asking the guys there to weigh in on the benefits of tabletop gaming in regards to mental health. And Tim, thanks for responding, man. That was marvelous. Thank you for subscribing. I hope that our content is enjoyable for you. I really do. I definitely appreciate the hesitance with your consideration towards some of the things that I did discuss in my last little video there. Much respect, sir. Trust me, the in all actuality, the racism, sexist crap, really not my jam either, but it comes up in certain crowds, and I try not to let it get to me, and I just kind of go forth. But that being said, I'm here to discuss basically what I asked the guys over at AppTab to talk about. I have found throughout my $13, $14 some odd years of tabletop gaming, kind of put that in perspective, I'm 28 years old now. So I have seen a lot of positive outcomes for people due to their direct exposure to tabletop gaming. At my current gaming table, and I won't give out names or any specifics per se, but we have a woman that deals with anxiety, depression, PTSD due to repetitive rape in her younger years. And through tabletop gaming, she has found new friends, found a safe and secure environment to work through some of her self-confidence issues, to work through the depression and heavy levels of anxiety that she has to deal with. And in the last 5 years, I'd say, of her gaming, we have seen a notable change in her. She's more confident. She's less anxious. She's more able to talk about her problems. She does not suffer from flashbacks as she was prone to do in the past. And a lot of that is due to her exposure to tabletop gaming and the crowd that we game with. Um, I have another player at my home table who deals with rage issues, depression, suicidal ideologies, homicidal ideologies, and oh God. These people have touched me deeply. But I feel their stories might help others either get into it and get into tabletop gaming, embrace the community. But yeah, this guy, he deals with some pretty dark stuff, some pretty heavy things, and we've been gaming with him. Well, I've known him for years and years, but he's been at the table regularly, I think, for the last 3 years. And he has gone through some serious transformations, I have to admit. Murder hobos for the win on this one, guys. Because all the dark things that he envisions in his mind, he doesn't have to bottle well up. He's found, again, a safe and actually oddly acceptable way to voice the imagery, the ideas that he gets in his head, through allowing his characters to act those out. You know, some guys being a loudmouth douche in a tavern in a session at some point. It's like, I walk up to the dude and I stab him. And it's a little screwed up, and there are repercussions within the game for doing stuff like that, but it's an outlet. It's like turning that valve just a little bit to let that steam off, so that he doesn't, he doesn't do anything to himself or to other people. I mean, he's not a bad guy. He's not. He's a great friend. He's a great person. He's very, very caring. He just has some problems, which we all do. A lot of people struggle. But yeah, he's dealt with rage all his life, and he finally has an outlet. He has serious self-worth issues, which I'm very, very proud to say that due to the group that I actually have at my table at home, he's he's begun to actually look at himself and think a little bit better. Maybe I'm not such a bad guy. Maybe I'm not, whatever. I don't know exactly what goes through his mind, but it seems to have at least lightened him up. He talks very openly nowadays with myself, with the other players that I have at my table, well, what's going on in his life, before we start gaming it on Sunday nights. We'll just, hey guys, you know what? I got this going on and it's got me all messed up. And everybody sits there and listens. No judgment, which is what I love about this community, is unless you're actually doing something bad, something really bad that you need to seek help for, nobody judges you. You can be overweight. I'm overweight. You can be nerdiest dude on the block. You can be super attractive. You can be male, female, any ethnicity. Your background's irrelevant. Nobody's gonna sit here and berate you or badger you for it. And that's amazing. It's very, very welcoming, very family-like community. I think I'll just go through what I have at my table currently for part one here, and maybe start discussing other individuals that I have gotten a chance to deal with for part 2 or 3 or however many parts this segment of my channel goes on for. But yeah, I have we added a couple of new players about a year ago. Great girls for the most part, little irresponsible, but they're younger than I am. One of them just graduated high school. The other one's, I don't even think she's 21 yet, but they're gearing up to go to college and whatnot here soon, which, kudos, great. Continue your education if you can. If life allows. Or take whatever path calls to you. Some of us just don't wish to continue our education in a structured school manner, and that's fine. But these girls, when they started playing with us, I didn't know them terribly well. They had been part of our local library group that me and my fiance run, which, for anybody out there that is willing to organize a public group like that, and has a local library within a reasonable distance from yourself, I would suggest maybe trying it, seeing if your local library would allow that, because the response we've gotten was far greater than we ever anticipated when we sat down and decided, maybe this is something we could do. But anyway, I'm rambling a little bit. No, these girls, they were outcast. They were very looked down upon by a lot of people. And I don't understand why. I really don't. I mean, they're nerdy. Meh, whatever. Aren't we all? I mean, tabletop community here. We're nerds. Go figure. But they're cosplayers, which personally I think that's really cool. They find very unique ways to create some amazing costumes for relatively nothing as far as cost goes. Um, but they came to our table, and in the last year alone, we have got to watch them grow and change. You know, from people struggling to get into the world to people having friends that will support them. Okay, no, it's in certain things, but we support them in their endeavors, and we try to allow them to grow. And any questions? I mean, we all stumble. I mean, come on, if you're sitting here watching this video, think back to when you first got out of high school, or a couple years past that. Didn't you stumble? Didn't you maybe make some mistakes along the way? And that's what they're doing. But they've got people around now that will, again, it doesn't even have to be during a session or whatever. We'll just sit there and listen to them, help them through their problems, and try and figure out all the solutions that we can that might work for them. But they're starting to actually stand up, you know, on their own 2 feet, both of them. It's amazing to watch. Really is. And they're becoming a bit more confident in themselves. You know, they're seeing, you know, there's nothing wrong with the way I am. There's nothing strange about, you know, doing these things or being like this, because they have dealt with ridicule pretty heavily, and so their public selves versus their private selves were vastly different individuals, and they're starting to come together and realize that they can be the way they are and be accepted. As I wish everybody could. Now, there are 2 more people that I would like to discuss tonight. The first isn't someone that I often get the chance to DM for or play alongside. But in my gaming circle, there's a little girl, about 5 years old. This kid has had some adjustment problems throughout her very short life, because situations are constantly changing. You know, her parents went through some rough times together. They've worked everything out. They're very cool together anymore. But she started DMing actually at a point where, you know, well, while she was getting older, her parents were, you know, laying out more rules for her, and she seemed to feel she had no control. So she would, as kids often do, act out and try and control her environment. And that's perfectly healthy behavior for a small child. And as long as it is guided and appropriately reprimanded where need be, there's no issues there. But This little girl came up to me and said, I want to run dragon games like you do. And my heart just swelled. And I teared up. I did, because I'm like, are you sure you want to do that? She's like, yeah, I want to run dragon games just like you. So I had to do a little research. I consulted her parents, made sure that this was going to be okay. We got her parents involved. We got her grandparents involved, which just seeing that family dynamic together is amazing. To be perfectly honest, 3 generations sitting around a table is it's an impressive sight. But this little girl dealt so well. She was fair. She was very decisive when she had her adventure set up. I think the first session she ran was only like half an hour, maybe an hour long. But she didn't throw a fit. She didn't get upset when people were beating her monsters or anything. She knew that at this table she was in control. She had legitimate control over something that was going on in her life. And that seems to have helped her grow. And that was, I want to say 8-9 months ago, something like that. And she first started doing that, and she doesn't do it on a regular basis, but every now and again, she gets her mom together, her dad together, her grandparents, or maybe some of her friends, and they all sit down at the table, and this little girl just runs Hero Kids. We use Hero Kids for her since it's a very simple system. For anybody that's looking to get involved with children, I would personally recommend that. But yeah, she's developing a healthy psyche. Even her doctor has said, because I've talked to her parents, they're like, her doctor's so impressed. She's very astute, very well spoken for her age. Her vocabulary is big, and that's stuff that she was struggling with, developmentally 8-9 months ago. And I think they said her last doctor's visit was like a couple weeks ago. So that's a big jump. That's very, very impressive. I'm personally very touched that I was able to inspire in such a young person the desire to do this, and that she seems to have a very good grasp on it. I hope she DMs for many, many years, and I hope she gets to play it too, though. So I want to see what she comes up with. And I hope to see her at my table, playing with all us oddities when she gets a little older. The final person I shall discuss this evening is the man you have all been listening to ramble for this however long I've been rambling. I discovered tabletop gaming, like I said, about somewhere between 13 and 15 years ago. My father used to have a group that he would run through D&D, through the old D6 Star Wars system, and that was kind of my first exposure to it. I was like, oh, this is really cool. And over the years, I've had family issues. I've had a lot of problems in my life. Nothing drastically astounding, I'm sure, to anyone out there, but stuff that was personally difficult for me. And the ability to sit around the table and game with people helped. You know, I got to work out a lot of my aggression, my confusion at certain things without being overtly just aggressive, I guess, without lashing out in any unnecessary way. And as I got older, I realized that I dealt with rage issues alongside depression and high anxiety. There was a point in my life where I would get so worked up over certain things that I would quite literally pass out for no reason, just because I got so worked up. And that was during a point of about 6 years where I did not have a gaming table. You know, I hid a lot of what I did because every time I brought it up, someone would be like, "Oh, you do that? And they'd make fun of me and stuff. And nobody wants to be made fun of. It's unnecessary. It's not pleasant. It hurts, you know, especially, you know, certain jabs. And there was a point in my life where, due to the fact that I went through all this, I injured several people physically. This is not a proud moment in my life, to be sure. But at that time, my father stepped forward and sorry, guys. Okay. And he said to me, he says, Garrett, you've got two options. And you have these two options, son, because I love you. You are either going to find help, or I am going to find you help. And the following day, I sat down with my mother and we discussed a plan of action. We found therapist, and went through that whole spiel. And that helped a little bit. Um, and then I mentioned, well, okay, I didn't mention outright that my therapist at the time asked me if I had any hobbies. And I was not very forthcoming with answers. And she said, Garrett, listen, I've dealt with you now long enough. I know when you're dodging something. I'm not going to judge you. What do you do? What are your hobbies? And I was like, I'm a card game player. I've played Magic, Yu-Gi-Oh. Currently sitting in a house full of Cardfight Vanguard players because Cardfight Vanguard is amazing. But I told her that I'm into card games. I like board games. I liked video games. I loved D&D. That last one, though, when I mentioned D&D, she stopped me and she's like, "You mean Dungeons and Dragons? Do you play? Do you have a current group that you play with?" And I was like, "No," because at the time, like I said, I'd been without a playing group for six-ish, 7 years, something like that, maybe 8. And she asked me why, because she knew that I had friends. It was like, well, I don't think it's something that any of my friends would be into. She's like, have you asked them? It's like, no. No, I have not. She's like, what I want you to do is pull out your phone right now while you're here, and I want you to send 4 people a message, a text, asking them if they would like to play D&D with you. I was like, okay, this seems a little weird, but like, okay. So I picked 4 friends, and I texted them and said, hey, would you guys be interested in playing D&D or Pathfinder or whatever? And out of those 4 friends, 4 of them responded with, yeah, oh yeah, most definitely, dude. When do you want to get this done? And to which I was elated. I was just blown away. And that's when I got back to tabletop gaming. I was DMing. I'm a very artistic individual. I do a lot of drawing, color work, poetry, write. Clearly, I DM, which in itself has to have some kind of creative ability. But after that, after I started gaming again, I started to notice that my anxiety levels were going down. I noticed that I wasn't as depressed anymore. And over time, though many may argue, I have become a relatively well-adjusted individual. Um, I almost never have to deal with depression anymore. You know, I don't hold anything in. My anxiety levels are normal. We can't say non-existent because let's face it, life is stressful a lot most of the time for one reason or another. But that is the nature of adulthood, unfortunately. But yes, my anger has. I don't feel angry anymore. Well, not that I don't ever feel angry. Sometimes people just make you angry or you get frustrated with things, but I, you know, I don't have to go through the souped up adrenaline testosterone run of rage anymore, which is marvelous. I cannot express to you guys how good a feeling it is for me. Um, you know, and all because tabletop gaming is part of my life. You know, when I feel flustered or whatever, what do? I sit down at a table and I just start writing and start world building and start, talking to my friends, be like, you know what, that thing that your character did last week, that was amazing, dude. What do you think is going to happen in the future? Do you think, keep acting off of that? Whatever. Anyway, this has been part one of my personal take on the benefits of tabletop gaming, uh, especially in regards to mental health. It it helps. It allows people to step back, step away from life for a little bit. Let all the things that are in their head out into the open without the possibility of really hurting somebody emotionally or physically or psychologically. This is a great game. Well, these are great games, I should say. You are all an amazing community. Um, when I came across the one shot group, absolute tabletop, you guys were all very friendly, very embracing, very welcoming. And I thank you all for that. And I can only hope that we can continue to grow, expand, and collect all the people till one day everybody plays some kind of game. But guys, again, from the bottom of my heart, thank you all. Until next time, this has been your friendly neighborhood player slayer, Death Bandit DM. Take it easy, guys.